Excel, we use the indirect function. Why do we use that function?
Okay.
Do you aware of the index match function? Why do we use that? Uh, do you know any other function apart from index and match which can work as index and match?
Yeah.
Which version of Excel you are using in your company? You mentioned you have experience in Power BI and SQL as well.
Yeah.
So what kind of project you did in Power BI? I'm saying that which type of insight
Mhm.
you are
Okay.
using or you used in Power BI to show that data
Yeah.
to your
Not
client.
not.
Can you tell me the name of the language which Power BI uses?
Yeah.
What are the
DAX.
DAX function? What are the DAX function?
So DAX,
And what is the difference between DAX and measure?
DAX and major.
Okay. So you mentioned you worked in advanced Excel. What are the advanced Excel formulas? Means how many formulas of advanced Excel you worked upon?
So.
Yeah, let's say I have a pivot table in one of the workbook,
Mm-hmm.
and that workbook is shared with everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to apply some function or I want to apply some code through which I can update that pivot table over a period of time. Is after 5 minutes, after 2 minutes, that pivot table automatically refresh for
Mm-hmm.
each of the, as a user update some data or changes some data in that workbook, and the pivot table also updated or refreshed at the same time. How we can do that? It's up, yeah, it's shared with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have a team of 30 people, and all the 30 people are using the same workbook. In the same work, they are making changes, they are deleting data, they are inserting data, they are updating status of some request.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to apply some mechanism or some technique so that the pivot table that is inserted in that particular workbook,
Mm-hmm.
that is refreshed automatically if at the moment when anyone make any changes to workbook.
Okay.
Can we protect a module in VBA? Okay. How can we protect the module? Handle the data. How do we handle the error handling in VBA code?
Okay. Yeah.
How many type of error in VBA we have? Okay. Uh, what is the use of option explicit? How do we write the do while loop in VBA?
So.
And what is the use of for each loop and how it is different from do while loop?
So.
Do you work on SQL?
Yes. Yes.
How do we copy data of one table to another table? What would be the query?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had ever self join? How we can use that self join? Can you write down the code for self join in your notebook and show me?
Okay.
Uh, I'm giving a hypothetical situation. Let's say you're hired by EXL. Then where do you see yourself in EXL down the line after 3 years? What are the views in SQL? How do we write a query to find out the second highest salary in a particular table? How we can get the last row in Excel using VBA?
Okay.
What are the constraints in SQL? What is the first form of normalization? The RDBMS, and how
Relation
they are different
database.
from DBMS? What are the DQL statement?
DQL.
DQL, DQL. How
DQL.
many type of statements in SQL
Mm,
query language? What are the aggregate function?
I,
Let's say I have to find out the total of all the salaries for 10 employees.
mm-hmm.
Let's say in my department there are 10 employees, and I have to find out the total salary of those employees. Then can you write on the SQL code for that in the chat window?
SQL.
Why we use what if analysis in Excel? There are 10 sheets in a workbook,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say come I have to make a pivot table or a pivot chart using all the 10 sheets, then how we can do that?
Using all the 10 sheets.
Yeah.
Those 10 sheets, there are tables, right?
Yeah, there are 10 sheets in a workbook.
Mm-hmm.
I want to use all the 10 sheets to make a pivot table or a pivot chart.
Okay,
Let's say
so
pivot table.
mhm.
I want to make a pivot table, and how we can, do
So
that.
in
Let's say I have to apply a VLOOKUP in a sheet,
mm-hmm.
and the data means lookup value. I'm talking about the lookup value. The lookup value, there are the lookup value which are in two different data type. Means lookup value has two different data type.
Mm-hmm.
One is text and another is the number. Means the lookup value is in both form, text form and the numeric value. Then how we can use the VLOOKUP formula to fetch the value? Let's say I have run a query in SQL and I'm getting an output,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to compare that output through an Excel workbook. There is an Excel workbook. In that Excel workbook, there is a sheet,
Mm-hmm.
and in that sheet, I have to compare the employee ID
Mm-hmm.
from Excel sheet and SQL query output.
Uh-huh.
Then how we can do that?
Uh,
To compare the employee ID
Employee ID.
means the employee ID exists in SQL output and the
Mhm.
employee ID in Excel sheets.
Mhm.
Those are matching or not?
Okay.
We have to find out. We have to find out the unmatched employee ID. What are your competencies?
Uh,
What is the EDate function in Excel?
can you repeat?
What is the EDate function in Excel?
EDate.
Have you ever heard about network days function?
Yeah.
What is year frac function? Let's say I don't want to use the X lookup function or index match function,
Mm-hmm.
and the data which I'm looking for or I want to retrieve, that is in the left side of the lookup function, or that in for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So which function we would use to fetch that data if that particular data or column is in the left side? And have you heard about offset function and index function? Why do we use add-ins? What are the subroutines? How we can use Excel function in VBA code?
Okay.
Is
So
there any code? Is
yeah,
there any code for that? What is
yeah.
that code?
Worksheet function.
What are the default add-ins we get in Excel? What is the white box testing?
White box testing.
White box. How many if condition we can apply in Excel formula, in one Excel formula? What is the replacement of if function? Say in our Excel sheet, there are 10 columns,
Mm-hmm.
and we have data in only those 10 columns.
Mm-hmm.
I want to only protect those 10 columns. Rest sheet would be unprotected. Then how would you do that work? How do you apply breakpoint in VBA code? What is the difference between immediate window and watch window? How we can enable the developer code in Excel workbook?
Yeah.
What are the scalar function in SQL?
Uh,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Do you have any question for me?